everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 Create a Sim video. So this week we are once again continuing our Fill the World Create a Sim project where I create families that fit into each of the empty pre-made EA homes in each of the worlds. So we are once again in San Myshuno and this is our last family for the Spice Market District, and they live in the old salt house, which is not an apartment for once. It's actually a standalone house. It's 113,000 simoleons, so it's quite a pricey place to live. But it is also like, you know, a waterfront property in a city, so understandable. And it has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it has the convivial lot trait. So this is the Bates family. And first up, we have Polly Bates. Polly is an adult, and she is an art lover. She's a snob, and she is outgoing. She is in the art critic career. Well, technically she's in the critic career in the art critic, like, branch. And she's like, I believe she's like level 6 or 7 in that career, so she's pretty far along in her career. She's doing okay for herself. And she is very, like, modern and sleek in both her style and kind of just like her whole vibe. I tried to pick out like outfits for her that were a little bit more avant-garde and kind of more geometric in pattern or in cut. Like basically a lot of the clothes that I don't ever seem to use in this game, because they're a little too modern for like your average everyday sim, I think. I gave to Polly because she can pull it off. Like, if there is a sim out there who can pull off some, like, okay, like this formal dress with like the weird triangle chest thing and all the cutouts, like most sims would look ridiculous in that dress, but not Polly. Polly can pull it off. So although she's a decent artist, it's not really her thing. She much prefers to write about art and to talk about art with people as opposed to creating it herself. So she has 5 charisma skill points, 5 comedy skill points, 3 mixology skill points, 5 painting skill points, 4 parenting skill points, and 7 writing skill points. So she's a very talented writer. She also likes, because she's outgoing, and she lives in a house with the convivial lot trait. She and her wife, Ruth, who we'll see in a second, they love entertaining. They throw a lot of parties and get-togethers. And they're both very just like outgoing, like fun people to be around. And that's sort of where like her charisma, comedy, mixology stuff kind of comes into play. Because if I have a sim where it's like, okay, you like to throw parties or go to parties, I like to give them traits that are like, okay, that would fit in with that. So like, maybe you're good at mixology, maybe you're really good at cooking, maybe you're good at dancing or singing or some other musical thing. So for her, I chose mixology. And I think she actually has to have, is it charisma or comedy? There was like, she had to have some like other skills as part of her career. Like, as you know, as I cheat them up in their career, but I make sure that the skills that they have match what they need in order to advance. So like, you wouldn't have a sim who's at level 10 in their career and then you look at the skills and they have none of the skills that they would have needed in order to advance their career. So like, it does sort of, in a way, it kind of pigeonholes me into like which skills I assign to each sim, but it also in some ways kind of helps me kind of create their character a little bit, because in some cases, you know, like you wouldn't have a sim, for example, here in the art critic career where your job is literally to write about art, who wouldn't have any background in either art or writing. So it makes a little bit of sense, I think. So next up is Polly's wife, Ruth. So Ruth is, she's in the politics career. She's currently, I don't remember how far along she is either, but she's a city council person. So like, she's pretty far up there. She's definitely in like the actual politics path of the politics career. She's not in the like activist part of it so much. And so Ruth is self-assured, so she's very confident all the time. She's a dog lover, and she is also outgoing, just like Polly. So they have that in common. And I actually think that with having Polly in the art critic career and Ruth in the politics career, that those two careers and the lifestyles that kind of would typically go along with them kind of complement each other. You know, like, I could see Ruth having a lot of, like, political fundraisers. Like, I know The Sims 4 doesn't work this way, but I know in The Sims 3, when you had someone in the politics career, they had to throw political campaign, like, rallies and fundraisers and stuff, like, as a party in their house. So even though we don't really have that so much, I don't think, in The Sims 4, I don't know, I haven't really played that far along into the politics career. But in any case, I could see that kind of being like a fun thing to kind of meld, like the art world and the politics world. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of overlap there, and there's a lot of overlap in people who would be at those types of events and parties. So Ruth has 8 charisma skill points, so she's very charismatic, more charismatic actually than Polly is. She also has 3 cooking skill points, 3 dancing skill points, 5 parenting skill points, and 4 singing skill points. So I sort of came up with this idea that when Ruth was younger, she wasn't particularly interested in politics, but she was more into, like, performance arts, like the dancing and the singing. And then, maybe she injured herself or something, and then sort of went in the other direction and wound up going into a life of politics because she's very outgoing and she's confident and she's very charismatic, and that has actually suited her better in the long run. So Ruth's style is a little bit more traditional than Polly's. It's, she's in politics, so, like, you kind of have to appeal to the greatest common denominator. So, and that includes how you present yourself. So for her to come out in something that's, like, extremely avant-garde or like crazy makeup or something, that could be off-putting to a lot of people, and you don't want that in politics. So she's very stylish. She's very, she's still a very stylish, very into fashion type of person, but she plays it a little bit more safe compared to what Polly wears. I also, I gave her the haircut. I think this was the haircut from Seasons. And with this haircut, she really reminds me of Florence Henderson, who played the mom on The Brady Bunch, if you know that show. I don't know why, but it just cracks me up, because every time I look at her in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's Florence Henderson. And no, it's not. So she's kind of like if Florence Henderson and Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation merged together into one person, that would be Ruth Bates. So there you go. So she also has 5 parenting skill points because Polly and Ruth have 2 kids. They have a teenage son named Dallas, who we'll see in just a minute, and then they also have a child-aged daughter named Kristina. So obviously Dallas and Kristina are biologically not Polly and Ruth's children. They are both adopted because same-sex couples can't in real life make a biological child together, because we don't have that technology yet. So they've adopted 2 kids. And that's why she has the parenting skill points. I always like it when in The Sims, like, now that we have the parenting skill, if a Sim actually is a parent, to give them at least some of the parenting skill, and sometimes it's kind of a good indication as to how involved they are in their kid's life. So she actually has more parenting skill points than Polly does. And she actually then in turn has a better relationship with each of her 2 kids. And Polly has a just fine relationship with her kids, but she's not quite as involved with their lives necessarily. Not that she's like a distant parent or anything, because she has 4 skill points. So she's definitely been involved in their life. But maybe it's just that it comes a little bit more naturally to Ruth than it does to Polly to be a parent. I also gave Ruth the dog lover trait because, oh yes, they have 2 dogs. They are 2 little Pomeranians, so a couple little fluff balls, and their names are Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu. So there's a story behind those names, and I've had a post-it note on my desk for literally months, create twin dogs and name them Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu. And I've been waiting for the right opportunity to do so. And this family, I think, is perfect for that. For one thing, because they actually have a backyard, I wanted to give them a dog anyway. Because I think I've said this in an earlier video. It doesn't really work so well. I mean, I know I have had dogs in apartments before, but cats seem to work a little bit better in the actual apartments as opposed to dogs. So I always wanted to give them a dog. So when I was in middle school, my best friend and I decided to give ourselves the nicknames Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu. She was Fifi, I was Fufu. And I don't know how this even came about, but when, we would walk around, at recess and stuff, and we would call ourselves Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu, and we would, link arms and walk around because, when you're a 12-year-old girl, you're dumb and you don't know what to do. And at my school, we had recess because it was a kindergarten through 8th grade school. So we had recess all the way through 8th grade, even though, by 5th and 6th grade, people weren't really playing at recess anymore. It was just let's sit around and talk. So we didn't know what to do with ourselves, so we would just link arms and walk around the playground, and we would go, I'm Princess Fifi, and I'm Princess Fufu. And then together we would say, and we do everything together, and then laugh hysterically because we thought this was funny. And I know it's super stupid, but I have been waiting to name 2 dogs, Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu, and really, what better dogs than 2 little white fluffy Pomeranians. So that's the story of Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu. So going back to the current sim, this is Dallas Bates. So he is Polly and Ruth's teenage son. He is kind of a good mixture, I think, of both of his moms. He currently is a B student in high school, so he's doing okay, but he's creative and outgoing. So he's got the creative thing kind of more from Polly and her art stuff, and he's also outgoing, which honestly, I mean, they're both outgoing, but, so he has 5 charisma skill points, 5 DJ mixing skill points, 4 painting skill points, and 8 singing skill points. So he is kind of like an aspiring musician, pop star type of person. So that was kind of the vibe that I was going for with him. He is also very into fashion. He's very stylish. I think he might get a little bit more of his fashion influence from Polly than Ruth, because he dresses in a way that most teenage boys would probably not choose to dress in. But I also sort of thought, growing up in a big city, you're exposed to more cultures and more ways of thinking, and it might be more acceptable for you as you're going off to high school in a big city to dress in a non-conforming type of way. So that's kind of where I was going at with him. And last up here, we have their daughter, Kristina, who is basically a kid genius. She has an A in school. I actually put her in the scout career or after school activity or whatever. And she is a genius. She has 4 creativity skill points, 9 mental skill points, 2 motor skill points, and 5 social skill points. So she is super smart. And, she is a creative person too. She has some creativity skill points because, growing up with her mom's the way that she has, I think it would be hard for her to not have a creative influence somewhere in her life. She also has 5 social skill points. So she is not a hermit. A lot of times, when you think of super smart genius, you think of a person who's very aloof and keeps to themselves. And that's not really Kristina. She's grown up in a household where both of her moms frequently throw parties and have other people coming over for get-togethers and stuff. And so as a result of that, she's really had to learn how to be socially interactive with a wide variety of people. Motor skills she doesn't really care too much about, but everybody's got to have their weak spot, and that is Kristina's. So her style is probably more of your typical kid. She does make some interesting choices, like her main everyday outfit I thought was a little bit more out there. But, you know, I think she also, in her household, they're not forcing their kids to be any particular way either. Polly and Ruth are very open and loving and understanding moms, and, you know, whatever their kids are choosing in life, they're just going to support them no matter what. And so for Dallas, that means being kind of a little bit of a diva, and for Kristina, that means maybe not caring quite so much about fashion, but still being very intelligent and very, very socially active. So anyways, so this is the Bates family. Currently, I am working on Princess Fifi and Princess Fufu here. They are identical twins. Like, I literally cloned Fifi to make Fufu and changed the eye color and gave them a different collar. So they are basically the same. They have almost identical traits, but one is different. So they're not exactly the same dog because, you know, no two Sims are the same, no two dogs are the same. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, you can do so down below. I put out a new video every single day, Monday through Friday. And if you would like to download the Bates family into your game, you can either do so through the link in the description box below this video, or by searching on the gallery using the hashtag Mrs. Tomato 1018, or through my username, which is also Mrs. Tomato 1018. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!